Hey, you're listening to the Birth Junkie podcast. Get ready to dive into all things birth with me. We talk about all the hot topics from preconception to postpartum. I'm so excited for you to join me on this journey to realizing that we're all human. We all make mistakes, and it's going to be messy at times. And we're all just kind of figuring it all out as we go. Now, if you're ready to hear raw, unfiltered, and real-life stories of struggles, triumphs, and learn a thing or two from parents and birth professionals alike, then come along as we navigate this thing called parenthood together. Hello, and welcome back to the Birth Junkie podcast. I am joined here with Becca. Becca, I'm so grateful that you're able to come and take a chat with me and take time out of your busy day. So I would love for you to introduce yourself.
Awesome. So my name's Becca. I live in Texas. I have 3 boys. I am never bored because I have 3 boys and nothing is ever clean, but we have a lot of fun. My oldest is 12, my middle one is 10, and my youngest just turned 5 last week. So I'm still a little bit in the little years, but we're getting there. And I'm 44 years old. I am a silver hair, gray hair advocate for naturally growing out your hair. As you can see me right now, but I know people can't see me, but I like to throw it out there for encourage people to be their authentic self. And I am a certified functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. That's basically me in a nutshell.
Amazing. So I would have never guessed that you're 44 years old. I mean, you look amazing, and I love the gray, and you got the pink in there too. I can't wait for people to see like your photo because you're gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. And then so if people aren't sure, could you kind of tell people what your title means?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So certified functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner is a lot of words. Basically, I like to just say I'm a functional health coach. I use functional lab work to assess the healing opportunities in someone's body, and I create a health rebuilding roadmap for someone to follow based on their specific biochemistry. Like, what's going on? Do they have a parasite? Do they have mold toxicity? Do they have neurotransmitter imbalances? What's your digestion, like? What are your hormones? How about your adrenals? All that good stuff. Because people can get a little bit frustrated with all the guessing, following gurus right and left, and really not understanding what's appropriate for their specific biochemistry. So you take the guesswork out, basically.
I love that. So do you offer that testing, or do they have to go to like
do.
oh, you do?
I do.
Okay,
Yeah.
so how does that work? If we can just kind of dive into that real
Sure.
quick.
Yeah, well, first you should know that I'm a massive science nerd. I love all things health and wellness, but the lab kits are so easy because they come directly to your home. So it would either be like a stool sample or a hair sample or saliva or urine sample. So you can collect in the privacy of your own home. You're not having to go to a doctor's office. It doesn't have to feel awkward. I mean, sometimes it can feel awkward at home, but shouldn't. And you ship it off in the prepaid packaging. The lab says, "Hey, Becca, got Sarah's results," and we go from there. So I work with women all over the country. I'm 100% virtual. And I was virtual before virtual was cool, before COVID. So I didn't have to do a lot of pivoting, which was really, really, really nice.
Yeah, that's great. So I also wanted to kind of dive into like your stories on your C-sections, and well, we can dive into your pregnancy too if you'd like.
Yeah,
Like, did you do like that testing for yourself?
I did. So, I was very much like a lot of women who ended up getting on the pill at 18 because I had horrible cycles. And I started my period at the age of 11, and it was always 21 days. I was pretty much estrogen dominant from the beginning. And I thought that the pill was my answer, or that I was told that it was my answer. And on the pill for about 10 years. And by the time I actually wanted to get pregnant, it was really hard, and had a lot of chemical pregnancies. I could get pregnant all day. I just couldn't stay pregnant. and it was frustrating, and ended up having my oldest, and then had one chemical pregnancy before I got pregnant with him, had multiple between him and my second son. And then we kind of decided, I think we were done. And but then I got pregnant again by surprise. I mean, I know how it works, but it was still a surprise. And ended up miscarrying at 8 weeks. And I was like, you know what? Something's not right. And at that point, that was around the time when I was really diving into genetics, health and wellness genetics. And I thought, we're going to look at my genetics, because I just had this gut feeling like something was up. Figured out some of my genetics. I have an MTHFR variant, which can impact a lot of things, and fertility is one of them. And it was impacting my body's ability to clot in a maybe the opposite way that you think. My blood would clot a little bit too much. And so basically I could conceive, but I couldn't really have a successful implantation because my blood flow was too thick. And knowing what I knew, I took that information to my OB, and she said, well, you can give yourself blood thinner shots in your stomach. And I was like, that's not happening. And the second option then was low dose aspirin throughout when you're trying to conceive, and then throughout your pregnancy, and did the trick. Like it's wild. And the crazy thing is, as I kind of went through this journey, I found out some friends of mine also had similar issues. One of my friends had like 7 or 8 miscarriages, and the way she got her baby to stick again was low dose aspirin, which you don't want to do without doctor supervision, of course, but really, really fascinating. So, I always recommend anyone I know that's struggling with fertility is like, get your genetics checked, because it could be something really simple. And MTHFR is very nutrient dependent. You have to support it with B vitamin, folate, B12, and folic acid is in so many prenatals, but folic acid is the synthetic form of folate. And not only can it be toxic if you have MTHFR, but it actually blocks folate receptors on cells. So it's not actually doing you any good if you have an MTHFR variant, especially. So, prenatals with methylfolate is what you want, or even folinic acid. Sorry, I'm getting a little sciencey here, but I just, in case somebody hears this and thinks, oh, let me check my prenatal, stay far away from folic acid. That's the synthetic form of folate. So I was able to get pregnant with my third child that way. First one, 42 weeks, induction, emergency C-section number 1, which just destroyed me at the time, because I'm like hippie, crunchy, granola, unmedicated, natural birth girl, right? That was my dream since I was a girl. And it didn't work. But I thought, okay, that's okay. And second one, I'm going to go for a VBAC. So at 20 weeks, I got diagnosed with complete placenta previa. And they're like, yeah, it's not going to happen. And then magically, I call it a miracle. In fact, they use this word miracle at my appointment a couple of weeks later, or maybe a month later, and that the previa had completely righted itself, which they say doesn't really happen very often. So I went for my VBAC, and I went into labor on my own, and 34 hours of labor, 6 hours of pushing. I was a good pusher. Nothing. Never dropped into the birth canal. Went back for emergency C-section number 2. They said it was very good that we did that at that time, because my placenta was paper thin and close to bursting, which can be very dangerous. So I thought, okay, this is just, where we're at. And my doctor came back and said, there's just something probably off in my hip structure, my anatomy, that just doesn't allow a baby to get into birth. And I had to come to terms with that, and the fact that I had given it my all. and that I had tried everything possibly I could try. And there was nothing more I could have done, which is not how I felt the first time. The first time I was like, oh, I should have tried this and I should have tried this and I shouldn't have let them push me into it. Well, I knew I had left nothing on the table the second round. So then when we were considering baby number 3, I thought, oh, piece of cake. I'm going to have a gentle C-section. It's going to be beautiful and it's going to be wonderful. And I'm not going to have this emergency aspect to it. What's that saying? Like, man plans, God laughs, or something, you know? So at my 20-week ultrasound, I got diagnosed with placenta accreta, which can be life-threatening and is really one of the number one reasons for maternal hemorrhage and death. And so then I spent the rest of that pregnancy feeling a bit like a ticking time bomb. And but I had a great maternal fetal medicine specialist. Like, every other word out of his mouth was an F-bomb, which worked for me. Like, he made me laugh every time. Like, I didn't want someone to feel sorry for me. I wanted someone to like make sure I understood anything I needed to understand. But I love humor and I cope with humor. So we were a great fit. So I had my surgery scheduled for a Monday because that's when all these are. I had a whole care team, a gynecological oncologist, because they are more familiar with the vascularity of a pregnant uterus. I had my MFM. I had my actual OB. I mean, it was just wild and woolly. And it was scheduled for what's called a CHIS, which is C-section followed by immediate hysterectomy, as a life-saving procedure. So that was a Monday, and I got the shots to, develop baby's lungs because he was going to be early, all that stuff. I'd gotten off the baby aspirin in plenty of time, I felt prepared. Mm-hmm. They also say if you start bleeding, you run. You don't walk, you run to the hospital. So my delivery was scheduled, or my surgery was scheduled for a Monday. Well, that previous Thursday, I get my son on the bus for school, and I realized I'm bleeding. And all hell broke loose. I was like, what is going on? Like, this is not happening. I just kept thinking in my head, like, no, this is not okay. I didn't have my bag packed. I mean, literally because of last minute. And I thought, well, I have all weekend. I have a weekend to clean my house. I have a weekend to pack my bed. I was not prepared. I shoved my second kid off of the neighbors and threw like 3 things in a suitcase, and we drove quickly to the hospital. Made it there okay. Luckily that day, every single one of my specialists was there. And they were able to kind of slow down the bleeding. And I had stents put in my ureters to protect them during surgery. A lot of times with Accreta, you can have bladder invasion. So the placenta goes through the uterus into the bladder. It can go into the colon. And they thought, based on ultrasound, that I might have some bladder invasion. I did not. I was millimeters away. So woohoo, didn't have that. Because a lot of women have to have reconstructive surgery on their bladder, colon afterwards. And that was not what I had to deal with, thank goodness. But and I had balloons placed in my femoral arteries up into the iliac arteries to inflate once they got baby out, to stop blood flow to the uterus. And they never try to detach the placenta, because that's when you can bleed out. So they just literally cut out the uterus, fold it up into a little pocket, and send it off to pathology. I was also at a hospital where they don't see this much. And I was like a celebrity. There were, I had 20 people in the room when they were placing the balloons. I was like, y'all don't need to be looking at all of this. But it literally, I was like, I was Miss Popular. Oh, and of course, after you've had a kid, you're like, here's my goodies. Like, whatever. Who needs to see it? Like,
Exactly.
So, he ended up being fine. He had to, he didn't need any NICU time. His blood sugar was a little bit low at the beginning, but it was great. And I kind of front loaded some breastfeeding supplements and support. And my milk came in actually faster than my previous 2 kids, which I was really concerned with having the hysterectomy, like, would my milk come in? And it did. And it was a rough recovery. I didn't deal with any of that the way I should have. I shoved it down. I pretended I was fine. Like I coped through humor. I mean, literally, my OB's like, they're putting the stents in, or no, that was when they were placing the balloons, and she's like holding my hand, and she's like, do you want some music? I was like, yeah, play some Pitbull. Like, let's have some fun. It's a party. And everyone's like, what is wrong with this person? Oh my gosh. But that's just how I cope. But instead of dealing with all the trauma and the death of my last birth dream of a gentle C-section, I just shoved it down and I tried to bounce back, and I tried to just pop right back into life, and ended up with severe postpartum depression. Thankfully, I found a fantastic therapist who is a womb healing, energetic healing type of therapist, and I really credit her with saving my life. I was never like suicidal or anything like that, but I had really gotten into such a big, bleak, dark hole of misery that I didn't recognize myself anymore. And I wasn't the friend, the mom, the wife that I wanted to be. And it wasn't me. I didn't recognize myself. I was like, who is this person? I don't know this person. I lost my joy for life. I've always kind of had, my mom says I have the joy gene. Like I love life. And I lost that love for a while. And so my little love, he turned 5 last week, and here we are. And it's not any way, shape, or form that I could have ever imagined my birthing journey would be. But I'm here to tell about it, and I'm alive, and my children are alive, and I feel like I was able to process all of that finally. Even the first 2, I didn't really process that either. And I feel like I'm finally at a place where I can think about, like, his birthday was always triggering for me, coming up into that few days before, and this was the first year where I really was like, oh, I actually feel good. Like I'm not stressing out about it. I'm not letting it take me back into really yucky memories. Like it was for the first year ever, his birthday this year felt like a normal kiddo's birthday should be. So
Wow. That's a lot of heavy emotions to process. Oh my gosh. And so you said you did the womb, was it a womb healer?
Oh my gosh. She is a she's a previous pelvic floor therapist. And she found in her physical work that there was an energetic piece missing, because as women, we hold grief, we hold trauma, we hold, all of that in our womb space. And like a lot of times when you have fertility issues or you have gut issues, digestive issues, bloating, it's because you're holding that negative energy in your womb space. And while I didn't have a womb anymore, I definitely still had a womb space, and it had that energetic memory of still being there. And so it was unlike any sort of therapy I'd ever done. I don't want to sit there and like talk and yammer on about my problems. Like it was like I just say, I call her magic. She's magical. She was able to ask me the questions that needed to be asked, elicit answers from me that I didn't even know I had in me. We did breath work, which I hated it at first, and now I love it because I'm like, oh my gosh, I just released like 10 years worth of stuff in one breath work session. Now it's amazing. Yeah, I would recommend her, and she's virtual too. So I would recommend her to anyone. So I can actually give you her name, to add to whatever show notes you want to, because she saved me from myself.
Wow.
Pulled me from the brink.
Wow. And how long did you see her for?
I did a 3-month session with her. We were meeting every 2 weeks. At some point, I'll probably be ready to go for another round. I felt like we went through so much in that first program I did with her that I still have a lot to process from that. But I definitely want to go in for a whole nother round because, I got other stuff besides birth trauma to deal with. I think most people have plenty of things to unpack. And she doesn't just do birth trauma. she does, any sort of, grief or energy work, or maybe you just always had a bad period and you don't have a good relationship with your cycle, or maybe you have a mother wound or a sister wound, or maybe you were sexually assaulted. I mean, she handles all the things.
Wow. That's a lot. That's so good. Oh my
We need
gosh.
people like her. Like, I didn't
Most
even know
definitely.
something like that existed. She was introduced to me by a colleague. She's like, you have to meet Miriam. And then in September, I went to that colleague's wedding, and I got to meet Miriam in person.
Oh, how
And
cool.
I can't even tell you, like, that first hug was so emotional for me. Like, I'm gonna tearing up right now just thinking about it, because just how much I needed to process. I needed a safe place to process, and I had not had that yet. My husband, bless his heart, didn't know what to do with me. He himself had his own trauma from that last pregnancy. I mean, he was terrified the whole time that I was going to die. And, really had a lot of his own stuff to deal with. And he didn't, he just didn't understand. And he couldn't have understood, really and truly, because he's not female. Like, I just feel
Yeah.
like he tried really hard, but doesn't have the capacity that maybe, a female would have.
Yeah, and I agree. Like it's so hard for even us to even realize what emotions we're feeling and where they're coming from, because after we have our babies, it's like we feel like we're expected to just keep going. Like we have to just figure out this
Yep.
new normal really fast, because now, after, especially after you have multiple kids, it's like, okay, I gotta get home. I gotta take care of these other kids. I gotta clean my house. I gotta cook. I still have all these daily life things that I have to do. So even if we have this birth trauma that we experience, we shove it way down.
Yeah. We don't have the time. We're not gifted the time to deal with and process. Our society does it wrong. I mean, I wanted to literally give birth, like, with what's her, Ina May, like, in her midwifery, like, village. That's what I
Yes.
wanted. I wanted that tribal woman, magical, communal experience. And we don't get that anymore. And I can tell you that my first C-section was way pushed into that. My doctor was like, I'm kind of tired of being here. I want to go home. Like, literally. And also, I mean, my son's heartbeat was decelerating a little bit with every contraction, but he, like, I mean, my OB, I did, and when I talked to my OB, my 6-week checkup, I was like, I want to go for a VBAC next time. It's like, that's not all it's cracked up to be. Like, not supportive at all.
Oh
Like,
my gosh.
yeah, needless to say, my second one, I was at an OB midwife combo practice,
Hmm.
and that suited me a lot better. But yeah, we are not gifting new moms with time.
Mm-mm.
We don't have, a lot of people don't even have family that live close, or they don't have good enough friends to kind of feel comfortable with asking for help. And I feel like, do you ever just feel like we're doing it wrong? We're just doing it all wrong.
Oh yeah.
Um, it makes me crazy.
I know. And because I have 4 kids, and I had 3 C-sections first, and then I did have a vaginal birth. But yeah, every single one was different.
Yeah.
Like the healing process, and then there wasn't always family there. Like I feel like once I had the baby, I was at the hospital, everyone's like, "Oh, I want to come see the baby," or when you get home, I want to come see the baby. But it's like that first week or first few days, and then after that, it's like, okay, peace out, everybody's
Yeah.
gone.
Back
Like,
to normal,
yes.
as if you're normal at that time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and you're like healing from like either a surgery, or what your body is healing no matter what. Like we go through almost 10 months of pregnancy, growing this human, and then all of a sudden in a day we're supposed to be back to normal, or 4 to 6 weeks, whatever they
No,
say.
no,
And it's just
no.
not even possible. And I love how you spoke about Ina May, because I love her. Oh my gosh. I feel like that's how we should give birth. We should be
Yes.
nurtured by a community of women who have given birth and have that knowledge. And it's not, it shouldn't be a medicalized event.
Mm-mm. I mean,
It's,
don't get me wrong. I'm thankful for modern medical prowess
of
because I
course.
feel like without that, with this one, I could have died easily. But I also have to think of if I hadn't been pushed into the birth C-section and I had been allowed my body to do what it was, naturally supposed to do, could I have actually done it? Because so many women who have Accreta, it's because you have scar tissue.
Yes.
So I have to think, well, if I didn't have the scar tissue to begin with, would I have had to deal with this? And I'll never know because
Right.
there are some women in my Accreta support group who it happened with their first baby and they
Really?
lost their womb. Yeah. Now,
Wow.
there might be a one or two that ended up having to have like a D&C with a miscarriage. Several have had like IUDs that caused scar tissue.
Yeah.
It's not always the C-section, but some had like literally nothing that could have caused the scar tissue. And they're devastated because they lost their womb. And for some of these mamas, they lost their babies too. Like they
Oh my
didn't survive
gosh.
because they went into a labor really early, and it would no hope. And so I feel very lucky and blessed, even though I went through what I went through. Um, Many women had it way worse than I did with their Accreta story. And I always say that I go through something so that I can walk through that thing with somebody else. Um, and it's the craziest thing because not 6 months after I had mine, a friend of mine called me. She's like, "You're not going to believe this." I'm like, "I don't know what." She's like, "I have Accreta." I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's okay." I mean, we talked all the time. I walked her through things. This hospital versus this hospital. He ended up having her because of her placenta and twisted her uterus into a figure eight. She died on the table. She lost all of her blood multiple times. They were able to bring her back, but
Oh,
with all of her blood loss, she has pituitary damage, and her husband has that memory of watching her die. It's I'm not trying to be dramatic, but that's just the reality of it is. And I think what so many of us Accreta survivors want to do is to just advocate for um, spreading the knowledge of it. So many women have never heard of it. They're not being told at their doctor's office, if you have a C-section, this could potentially happen. Nobody is talking about it in the medical community. No one is warning women. No one is saying, hey, you know what? This is last resort. No, it's first resort for convenience.
mm-hmm.
So often it's about convenience. Like,
Yeah.
it blows my mind. You're
It's really
setting
sad.
women up for disaster.
Yeah. And I had that with my first C-section too. I was young. I was 16 when I had my first. And so I was completely uneducated. I was like a deer in the headlights. And so I went in there and I distinctly remember my doctor saying how, and she looked at her watch and was like, I gotta get to my dinner. Like it's almost
What?
5 o'clock, talking to the nurse. And, I'm over here laboring away and then she's like, "Oh, well, the baby's had a couple heart decels I didn't really like." And I didn't realize that in birth, when you're in labor, heart decelerations are normal.
Yeah.
And but she was like, "Oh, we have to get you in a C-section. Like this baby needs to come out now." And so, I'm like, she's like, "Well, your baby's gonna die if we don't do this." So I hear that, and I'm just
What?
like, "Well, let's do it. Like,
Oh
why
my
are we
God.
still sitting here? I did not know. I just heard your baby's gonna die." And I'm like, "Well, I don't want my baby to die." And so, anyways, and I remember when they were, operating on me on the table, she said, "Oh, well, now I'll get to my dinner on time." And I was just like, what? Crazy.
To me, that should be medical malpractice. if
Mm-hmm.
if they're not willing to be late to a dinner, then why are they in that profession of birthing babies to begin with? I
Right.
don't understand it. Like,
Yeah.
choose something else. Go do something where it's a 9 to 5. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what you're getting into when you go into labor and delivery. It's not like a surprise,
No.
like, I don't get it.
I don't either, but like you, also, I had the placenta previa with my second. At the 20-week ultrasound, they said, oh, well, your placenta's fully covering your cervix. There's no, because I wanted to go for a VBAC too.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, there's no way. Like, you'll die, your baby will die, like, you'll bleed out, all, all the things. And so I was like, well, okay. But come to find out later, that my placenta had moved out of the way, but they never told me. So we scheduled a C-section, and yeah,
Oh,
it's
that makes me so angry. Like at least like my doctor said, oh, it's a miracle it moved. They told me to not tell you again, medical malpractice.
mm-hmm.
I I don't understand the mentality of, oh, well, C-section's just easier. So we're just gonna kind of finagle this. We're gonna manipulate this scenario to kind of go towards the C-section. Like it's horrible. I mean, after my Accreta baby, I mean, the balloons and all that stuff. I mean, I looked like I had been in a severe car accident. I had bruising from my mid thigh up to my belly button. I looked scary.
Wow.
Um, I mean, and I still believe to this day that I have gut issues because I have so much scar tissue. And when you have the C hist, your normal, C-section scar that would be like 5 inches, now is 8 inches. And I have a lot of adhesions, and
Mm-hmm.
no one told me that either. Like, hey, as soon as your incisions healed up, you should get some scar tissue work. You should do self massage, something. They are not educating us on what
Mm-hmm.
to do.
Yeah.
So being an open book, I'm like, y'all got to do this. Like everybody, like learn about this, educate yourself, because they're not going to educate you.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I know. And, that's one of the reasons why I try to use this platform is to help spread the information that I wish I had. And, just that little nudge to be like, just do some research, because they're not coming, they're not giving you the information up front.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really sad that we have to dig deep to try to find the information for ourselves, because I don't know, I feel like it should just be out there.
I completely agree. But it's not just maternity, it's all health. I what fall of 2019, I had a 3-month migraine that would not go away. I was miserable. I went to my regular doctor multiple times. I got an MRI, I went to the neurologist, all of this stuff. Nobody helped. I tried 5 different medications. Nothing helped. They're like, well, we could do Botox shot. I'm like, no, that's not. I'm like, that's not addressing why I'm having them. That's band-aiding. I don't want a Botox shot. I want to understand why I'm having them. So again, like, well, here I go. I guess I get to, help myself again. Turned out I had histamine intolerance, which most
Oh,
people think histamine of like itchy, sneezy, pollen, things like that. But histamine is actually a neurotransmitter, and it can build up in your body. It can cause anxiety, it can cause fatigue, it can cause migraines, insomnia, joint pain, all of these things. 3 days into a low histamine diet, because there's also histamines in food, my migraine was gone. No
whoa.
medication, no Botox, no. Was my neurologist going to suggest I figure out what's going on with my histamine? Absolutely not. And my cholesterol at the same time was like bottom of the barrel, because I had sent her my blood work. It was bottom of the barrel. It was extremely low. And she congratulated me on extremely low cholesterol. It's like, I didn't have the energy at the time to be like, that's not good. You need cholesterol. Cholesterol is the precursor for all your hormones, your adrenals, your sex hormones. Like bottom of the barrel, low cholesterol is not good. Why are you congratulating me? Like it's part of the problem. Because they're just not trained to look at things that way. And it goes back to some of my genetics. I'm predisposed to have a buildup of histamine in the body. And then I see I really feel like it's become kind of this undiagnosed epidemic. amongst postpartum moms. So many of my clients, whether it's, 3 months postpartum, a year postpartum, or 5 years postpartum, are struggling with histamine issues because stress drives up histamine in the body. High estrogen drives up histamine in the body. And a lot of times it takes a while for your estrogen and your progesterone to balance out. Gut issues, so certain gut bacteria drive up histamine. All the shifts in hormones from conception to pregnancy to delivery to breastfeeding, all of that can mess up your gut in the short term. It's like I had one client who was struggling with debilitating anxiety, like not quite suicidal, but thought, maybe a little bit, like not functioning anxiety. And she had 4 sweet babies at home, kids, and thought she was just trying to be healthy and going to the gym. And we did some food sensitivity testing, and we shifted her diet. And she's like, Becca, I feel worse. Like, well, what did you shift your diet to? I said, and she told me, and I said, okay, I think I know what's going on, but we should get your genetics test back any day now, and I'll correlate it with that. Sure enough, she was prone to histamine issues, and she was priding herself on eating an entire giant bucket of spinach every week. Guess what spinach is? Super high histamine. 1 week. I'm getting goosebumps that you can't see, but I'm getting them. 1 week into a low histamine diet, which is not sustainable long term, but in the short term can really jumpstart you. Her anxiety was gone.
Wow.
After years.
Oh
and I'm seeing this so much with postpartum, because when it's stressful, because again, we don't have our tribe, we don't have our community, we don't have I know May. I'm not out there like gardening and like tending to the earth like we are meant to do, and really remembering who we are as women, and having that community. And we come back from birth and we're stressed, and our gut's a mess, and our hormones are a mess. And then we wonder why we're anxious and we're not sleeping, and we have bloating and IBS and anxiety and all of these things, because we're not being taken through an adequate healing process. We're not, again, gifted with the time. What's other countries, like mom stays in bed for 30 days.
Yeah.
That's bonding with baby. She is taken care of.
Yeah.
So we give birth or have dramatic surgery and go right back into being the caretaker.
Yeah. I know.
Anyway,
it's crazy.
That's my TED Talk.
No, I love it. But I do feel like there's a shift coming, because there are some places that are, or some people that have created, like, I don't know if you've heard of them, but they're called Be Her Village.
No, but I want to know about this.
Okay, so they're amazing. They have created a registry, but for services. So this includes doula support, birth and postpartum doula support, lactation support. There's a bunch of other support services on there. So what it is people would, like, it's kind of like a GoFundMe almost, but the money goes to the mom, and then she's able to pay directly to her service provider.
That's amazing.
Yes. So it's a gift registry, but not for just all these things that we're never going to use. It's for services that we need.
That is so brilliant. I love this so much, because it's like, especially as the first time mom, you're like, I need all of these billions of pieces of equipment. And then by the second one, it's like, you got diapers, like rocking chair. Like, that's about all I need. Exactly. And my Bobby stroller. I'm not gonna lie. I love my Bobby stroller. But the services, because that could make or break someone's experience. That could make or break someone's ability to heal and recover. That could make or break someone going into postpartum depression or not. That's amazing. I love that. All right. I'm gonna have to tell people about that one too now.
Yes, let's spread the word.
Let's do it.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much. I want to be able to connect the world with you. So how can people get a hold of you?
So I have a website. My brand is Holistic Obsession, because I'm literally obsessed with all the things holistic. So holisticobsession.com. I am very passionate about connecting with people. and especially women. Women is my main niche. And my mission is to help driven women. It's mostly because I'm type A, so I kind of, I resonate with some type A mamas. But I help driven women overcome health obstacles so they can make a difference for their families, their communities, and the world. Because I truly believe that women are the path to making the world a better place. And it has to start with women's health, because the healthier that the collective womanhood is, to me, the healthier the world is going to be, because we create those generational legacies of better health. We teach our families, we teach our children, we're telling our friends, and if women aren't healthy, then our communities aren't going to be healthy, and our workplaces aren't going to be healthy. Our families are not going to be healthy. So I offer free connection calls. Like literally, let's chat. Let's chat about your struggles. Let's chat about your goals. And I love them because, again, I don't ever want anyone to feel alone in their health issues, because you're not. I promise. I've probably had all of the issues. I probably had them myself. Offer free connection calls, and I also have a free Facebook group, which is super fun. It is if you go to my website and go under services, there's a direct link to that free Facebook group. It's preventing burnout with holistic health strategies. So, because I think as women too, we get burnt out so fast because we are wearing all the hats and don't have any of them. And it's so easy to experience all the symptoms of burnout. holisticobsession.com. I'm on Instagram. My Holistic Obsession is my handle. I'm on Facebook. Come find me and let's have a chat. I love it.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. And I think the work you're doing is so needed. Oh my gosh. I love it. And I, of course, will link everything in the show notes so everybody can just find you at the click of a button.
Oh, perfect. I love it.
Yes.
It's, I think we need to get back to that tribe community. I think we need to get back to the collective womanhood, not only tending to the, maybe even figurative earth, but tending to ourselves and tending to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in that collective that we rise. There's that saying, a rising tide sails all ships. It's not about competition. It's not about, somebody dimming our light. It's about pulling your fellow woman up alongside of you so we can rise together.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, you just gave me chills. I love it. I think that's exactly needed. Yes.
I always tell people, I'm like, exactly how I feel. I'm not gonna mince words. Like, my thoughts on things, and I truly believe that.
Well, thank you so much for joining me in this beautiful chat.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me on. It's been so much fun.
Of course. All right, I'll chat with you soon. Bye.
Bye.